I remember saying that this was going to be the end of it. I didn't want to work with him. You know? Why did we go back on the stage? Peter! Why did we go back on the stage? I have no idea. I have no idea at all.
But I'd like to emphasise to everybody viewing that despite rumours to the contrary, we're not splitting up and never will.
With the lovable Pete and Dud now consigned to oblivion, Cook and Moore summoned up their notorious alter egos, Derek and Clive.
I wrote to Mrs. Thatcher.
Yeah, well...
I said, dear Mrs. Thatcher, you know, respectful. Pardon the language, but I got the fucking horn.
It came about in New York. Peter wanted to record one sketch, which was to do with Jane Mansfield.
The worst job I ever had was with Jane Mansfield. I had the terrible job of retrieving lobsters from her bum.
And he wanted only to record that one sketch, it seems. And the worst job you ever had. What's the worst job you ever had?
I think the idea of retrieving lobsters from Jane Mansfield's arsehole as a job is about as funny an idea as I've ever heard in my life.
We'd always done, I mean, basically, these obscene people.
I said, Dolly,
yes.
You've tested me in the past.
Oh,
I said, we've been married 14 years,
right.
And you've tried a number of things. I was about to get in the Guinness Book of Records for the longest yardage of snot between one nostril and the wall, and you let me down. And shall I tell you what I'm going to do now? I'm going to get the Guinness Book of Records to recognise me as the #1.
He made my jaw drop a couple of times. I thought, are you really saying that? He's really saying this.
He didn't crave being taken seriously or being clever, although he was desperately clever. But he didn't crave that. He craved laughter. He was a laugh getter, Peter. Sometimes he didn't care how he went about it.
Didn't ask him if he horn that.
You know, he probably wanted to shock people, and he did. You know, there's no doubt he shocked me, and I mean, that was his main, it seemed his main source of pleasure.
Having a wank.
Shocking me. It just became an arena for us to you know, throw mud at each other.
What's this got to do with fucking whales?
Nothing at all.
Right.
Your mother goes swimming around underwater, you know, and she spouts a lot.
I think that's very cruel.
She should be put down.
You don't know where the fucking spout
Should be wiped out. Should be wiped out along with those seals. Where are you going? Somewhere for visual excitement.
It was funny, Pete and Dad discussed big subjects like religion, sex, art. I mean, and then we started running out of material.
Must be dreadful having partners put crisps all over your head the whole fucking time. No wonder we're breaking up.
Breaking up is so easy to do.
Yes, go on.
After 3 Derek and Clive albums and 1 final film together, the disastrous Hound of the Baskervilles, Moore found himself on the verge of a successful movie career, which was to effectively end their partnership.
He was mildly teed off when I came here to and stayed in Los Angeles. But I hadn't thought of this relationship as an extraordinary marriage or an extraordinary relationship. I hadn't thought of it as such.
Cook went briefly on the wagon on doctor's orders, wrote a short-lived column for the Daily Mail, and hosted a new wave pop show, parodying his former real-life role of club owner.
Ever since this program began, I've attracted a huge cult following. Everywhere I go, I have this huge cult following me.
Once he lost Dudley, I mean, it was almost like being wise when Morecambe had died. Being a part of a double act like that, there was nothing he could do.
The next group, shut up! Learn a language! The next group have their music based on the Korean War.
Perhaps spurred by Moore's newfound fame and criticism of his own wasted talent, Cook made his own attempt at mainstream appeal. But an ITV special, despite the presence of John Cleese and Rowan Atkinson, met with a mixed reception, while a US sitcom in which he played an English butler was axed after its first season.
You're here to see me. I'm Nan Gallagher. I'm the one who put the ad in the paper.
That you're an American. And a woman. And barefoot.
Joan Rivers!
Bowed but unbeaten, Cook returned to England, where one final disaster still awaited him.
I think that would have to be popularly agreed to be one of his worst decisions ever.
Will you come back a lot and talk? Because you're just wonderful.
I'll come back a lot and talk,
Like
yeah.
the next show, too?
Certainly.
And the show after that?
On and on and on.
It was very strange. It didn't work at all. Because Peter's, you know, you have to have that magical presence. You've got to have it. You've got to have it in the middle. You can't stick Peter down at the end of a sofa and assume that he's going to just sit there and make the odd comment. I mean, he's going to take over or nothing. Do you know what I mean? And he became very amusingly marginalised, I thought. When I remember watching, he could have actually walked off the set and nobody would have noticed. I don't think he was over happy with that particular outing on TV. He did also, I never saw it, but he always used to brag to me about the fact that he'd done a chat show that was so bad it was taken off after, was it 3 episodes? But it was one of his favourite sort of party topics, was talking about his great chat show career.
Peter had no interest really in investigating, talking to, finding out what his guests were on about. He just thought, I'm on a chat show and that's easy. He was the most perfect chat show guest.
And it was live, and it was disastrous. I made sort of certain basic talk show errors. Like some famous person would come on, like S.J. Perelman or whatever. Instead of saying, how are you, I'd say, who are you? And, or why are you, and where are you?
Throughout the 80s and 90s, Cook became what one critic called the most exasperating and wasted star, who'd amble out of the pavilion to knock up a century or two, and then retire again.
To dead King Richard.
Oh,
Now, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you very much for nothing. Thank you so much. That's the last you'll be seeing of me. Not that you've seen much of me in any way.
I think a lot of the time, he just didn't want to see anyone. He just wanted to be left alone, and he would sit at home drinking, watching TV and reading. If ever I saw him, he was incredibly well informed about what had been on TV.
If there was any programme that you'd even vaguely heard about and you didn't know what was on it, you could ask Peter and he would have watched it. You know, satellite television, German pornography, you name it, middle of the night, Peter had watched it.
Live on LBC, this is the Clive Bull Through the Night Show.
Sven in Swiss Cottage.
Oh, hello, Mr. Bull.
Hello, Sven.
Yes, I'm only a visitor here from Norway. And I listen to the program and think one wonderful thing, because in Norway, the phone-in is mainly devoted to subjects of, you know, that, like fish.
I think he'd just been watching a Norwegian documentary about fishing.
If a hooligan goes to football, knows that he is going to see slides of fish on a big screen, slides of chub, roach, tench, and so on.
We didn't even know that it was Peter Cook calling to begin with.
They have tanks.
They have tanks as well?
Tanks of fish.
Yeah?
Not tanks, armored tanks. Tanks of fish.
He phoned in with tales of his girlfriend called Jutta, and that was a long-running saga, and quite often the whole program would be taken over by people then phoning in saying, well, Jutta should do this, or no, he should dump Jutta and forget this, that she's messing him around. And I think he invented a look-alike who looked just like Sven but wasn't Sven, and it got very complex, but we were all kind of caught up with it.
Well, the very best of luck, Sven, and...
It is up to me.
It is, yes.
It is up to me just to go out and say, look, I am alive, I'm a man, I have a Macintosh, and I feel a lot more upbeat.